Ben Simmons over the past few years has been a hot topic. After debatably faking a back injury and refusing to play the rest of the 2021-22 season, he's come back, not very good. Honestly, looking like a bench player at most these days. And not to be harsh on old Benny here, but it seems like the Nets falling apart has a lot to do with him completely failing to be a contributing player on a team looking for a title run, especially since he was expected to eventually return to form and fill a void left by James Harden. But at this point in the season, he's averaging an extremely mediocre 6-6-6, and it's seemingly not getting any better, with Ben only playing 13 to 20 minutes off the bench for the past few games. It really is insane how far Ben has fallen. If you remember, not many years ago, Ben was a multi-year all-star 6'10" point forward who could score, pass, and defend at a top level. And really just do it all, for the most part. He was really looking to be a major piece of a young, promising 76ers team. He was drafted first overall in 2016. And after taking a year off to heal a foot injury, was back the next year, just in time to join a still fresh Embiid, who had to take 2 years off and only played 31 games in his debut season the year prior. This was a super exciting time in Sixers history, with this team ultimately being the end result of the process. After the first season the two stars had begun to play with each other, the team had jumped from 28 wins at the end of the 2016-17 season to 52 wins at the end of 2018, which, fun fact, is actually the most winning season of this modern Sixers team, unless Embiid goes nuclear to finish off this season. But getting back to Ben, he was a huge part of the Sixers' early success, as they ran the offense through him, and he really did deliver most nights, with flashy passes, nice dunks, and generally just a well-rounded out box score. He really looked like he was poised to become somewhat of a LeBron light once he hit his prime. Well, he did have one glaring weakness to his game, one that he still struggles with to this day. He couldn't shoot, not even a 15-foot jumper, and could barely hit free throws at above 50%. But people thought he would eventually work a little bit of outside the paint scoring into his game as he aged. Unfortunately, as we all know, he never really worked on his shooting enough through his career. Once defenders noticed his scoring was pretty one-dimensional, they started playing more than 5 feet back from him, completely disregarding any shooting threat out of Simmons, even mid-rangers. This was tough for Simmons, as defenders had ample time to get into the perfect position to cut off his drive for one of his trademark dunks. And once they got to that spot, Ben couldn't hit the free throws once fouled. This pretty much left passing as his top offensive skill. But now that he wasn't a scoring threat, they could see one of his flashy passes coming a mile away. So really, his complete lack of ability to shoot from anywhere on the court started a chain reaction that led him to the point where he's at today. You can even see it in the stats, as even with talented scorer Jimmy Butler on the team that year, Ben peaked in scoring in his second year, and peaked in assists in his first year, all before defenders got a true read on how to deal with him. This is where Simmons' confidence starts to get shot, as fans, teammates, the media, and probably even his own parents were telling him to just shoot the ball. He apparently didn't listen to anyone though, as night in, night out, he was dared to shoot wide open 15-foot jumpers and just never took them. On the rare occasion he did, they were much more likely to clank off the rim than go in the basket. And it only gets worse from there. After a number of seasons where you could tell the media pressure was getting to him, Ben met his worst nightmare, the man who ruined his career. On June 20th, 2021, only 2 points down with 3.5 minutes left to go in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Semis, Ben Simmons passed up on a basically open layup, with only a 6'1", 160-pound soaking wet Trae Young in his way due to his fear of shooting free throws. The Sixers eventually lost the game by 7 points, as the Hawks' lead ballooned directly after that moment. Now, this is where it gets spicy, and honestly a little sad. Head coach Doc Rivers throws him under the bus after the loss, fans and the media alike are tearing him apart, and the leader of the team, a devastated Joel Embiid, essentially blames the loss on Ben in a post-game interview. This, of course, leads to Ben acting up in a number of ways, including changing his phone number and not telling anyone in the offseason, showing up to practice and getting kicked out, demanding a trade and refusing to play at the start of the season, and then doubling down with completely fake back injuries and mental health problems once his pay started to get threatened. As much as the Sixers didn't want to cave into his trade demands to spite him, they had to deal him if they wanted value back to hopefully win a chip, which they were hunting. and a good opportunity for all parties appeared.
While Ben was being ran out of Philly, there was another situation brewing within the Nets, as there was starting to be reports that James Harden was looking for a way out of Brooklyn, and possibly due to Ben's situation and the presence of one of the greatest big men to ever play the game in Joel Embiid, it had seemed that Philadelphia was Harden's preferred destination. He did ultimately stop short of putting in an official trade request, however, due to the fear of public backlash, which he received anyways. But looking in hindsight, after this year's trade deadline, it seems that Harden was the only smart one getting out before disaster truly struck. Brooklyn was able to get the deal done, trading a player who was scared to take less than 30 shot attempts per game for a player who is just straight up scared to take a shot attempt, while also adding some shooting and depth as they were able to pick up Seth Curry and Andre Drummond. Ben at the time was still recovering from back issues and a bruised ego, so fans waited patiently for his debut to see if his performance last year was truly a case of the yips or a persisting issue that Ben would have to deal with. But as the playoffs started to approach faster and faster, it had seemed that Ben's debut wasn't going to happen this season, which was pretty much confirmed as Ben was still on the injury report game 1 against the Celtics. Then after the following 2 games, in which the Nets found themselves on the wrong side of a sweep, fans were already complaining about Simmons sitting out without any true injuries, as the reason he had missed the entire season was only due to an injury he got while running up a set of stairs. The offseason was pretty quiet from Ben and his camp, but he would eventually start to ramp up and finally make his return to the court in preseason, suiting up for 13 minutes and only taking 3 shot attempts. But that was his first game in nearly a year and a half. Even though it was just a preseason, there would still be a lot of pressure just off that fact alone. He was given more minutes the next game, but again, looked shy near the basket and seemed to always be looking to pass it off, even when getting the ball dumped to him in the low post, giving him an easy layup or dunk, a move he'd done thousands of times in Philly. But now he would just hesitate and eventually pass it out to the perimeter or look for a cutter, which worked in the second preseason game as he was able to stack up 10 assists with only 2 turnovers. But it seems the Heat picked up on the fact Ben still has PTSD from the big bad Trae Young and was only looking to pass. But this time, when he would hesitate or clam up, the Heat would just put the clamps on and force a turnover or a bad pass, as Ben finished that game with only 4 assists, but a total of 6 turnovers. And you see me, I like to assume it was about at this time the Nets realized they had a pretty big problem on their hands. But maybe this was something Ben could shake off and find a way to get back to his old self, but we're now halfway through the season, and Ben Simmons is still going around telling anyone who will listen that he's still gonna need a little more time. So I wouldn't be holding your breath for Ben to be having any 40-point games this season. And aside from a few decent games that come way too few and far between, it's hard to see the path to which Ben Simmons can find his way back to his old self. And now for the second time in a row, his horrible play is making his head coach have to publicly defend their own actions to the media, as Jacques Vaughn has recently stated his confusion on how exactly Simmons is going to fit into this lineup, as he's only been averaging a total of 16 minutes a game since the trade, sending Kyrie to the Mavs and KD to the Suns. And considering Ben is the only player on the Nets to be named as an All-Star within the last 3 seasons, or at all for that matter, you would think he would have full reins over this team, instead of the team trying to figure out a spot for their all-star. It's pretty wild to watch a player with the athleticism and basketball IQ Ben Simmons has quickly crumble into a fringe role player that's hindering on offense while simultaneously losing some of his defensive edge, as there's been many instances this season of teams switching on and attacking Ben Simmons, who at times was his team's best defender prior to the playoffs in 2021. Since that series, Ben has been a shell of his former self, with little to no competitive fire. It's almost harder to believe that this is the same player who in his rookie season was already looking to start competition with Donovan Mitchell when they went head-to-head for the Rookie of the Year award, an award that Ben had actually won. But now their careers couldn't be farther apart, with Donovan Mitchell playing great in a new situation with the red-hot Cavs team, even dropping 71 this season, while Ben's still struggling to put up Draymond Green-esque triple-single numbers. But I think Donovan Mitchell had the best take on Ben in their rookie season. After Ben's tough Game 2 against the Celtics, in which Ben only managed to get a single point, Donovan had said, "Ben's a good player, and good players will always bounce back." So as fans, all we can do is wait and see if Ben can truly be the player Donovan thought he was, or if he'll be getting that text from Adam Silver telling him he better start house shopping in Shanghai. If you made it this far, give the video a like. Subscribe not to miss another upload that comes every single week on Monday morning, and we'll see you on the next upload.